So what do you say to those people that are just like, well, I trust the science. So, like there's people that are, or I only trust doctors or whoever it is. Like, I, that's kind of one of the responses I would get from friends, or, where I would try to kind of like gently introduce some of the stuff, and they're, like, where they only trust the science, but their science is only tied to a certain portion of science, and they're ignoring the other science that is intentionally being taken down over time. What do you say to those people?
Um, it depends on the situation. It depends on how open-minded somebody is to something. And you've got to get through somebody of taking the emotion out of the equation and say, okay, if you're going to trust the science, what science are you looking at? Right? And are you open to exploring both options?
Mm-hmm.
And I find so often nowadays that people have been so um, information flows so easily nowadays that people will not spend a lot of time researching. They'll take the path of least resistance, and what they seen last they consider as gospel.
Mm-hmm.
So it's I don't try to win an argument with anybody. I don't try to fight with anybody. um, I'll try to always look at both sides of the equation with somebody. So then you're basing whatever the outcome of that is on fact or as much factual information, but you got to take the emotion out of it. It can't be an emotional I think, I feel, I anything. It's facts prove to me such and such, right?
Yeah.
And that's always sort of how I try to work with people. But I find that people in a majority of people that I talk to, their gut tells them one thing, science tells them another, and they're
Mm-hmm.
confused,
Mm-hmm.
right? Especially in an aging population,
Mm-hmm.
that it's hard because you're dealing with a trust factor here too. So if I look at somebody in my parents' age group, their whole life they've been taught to trust the doctor,
Mm-hmm.
right? So me focusing more in the natural health realm, right? And in our age generation, right? And even more so the younger age generation, we're seeing this a real strong shift back to natural, right? And a craving for, why are we seeing organic markets popping up and gaining so much momentum? Why are we seeing naturopathic clinics growing? Like, why are we seeing this essentially explosion of natural health growing? It's being fueled by the younger generation that's in their late 20s, early 30s right now, that have, I think it's a subconscious thing where they've seen this deterioration in health in older people, and they've done enough research to realize that they're healthy or they're fit. They've researched to realize, okay, these chemicals and these things that are coming to me aren't good for me. What am I going to do as a result of that? Right. So I find it, considering which generational gap you're talking to has a different viewpoint and a different trust factor on who it is. Right. And the sad thing is with this cancel culture and narratives that are being fed to us now, people are almost being bullied without being bullied, right? To form a certain opinion. And I believe that that certain opinion is made up of a very small minority of people, but it's getting the majority of the press and the majority of the voice,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Absolutely.
And it makes it more difficult.
Yeah.
But I think people are starting to wake up. They may not be waking up vocally or waking up in a point where they're saying anything, but I think human nature in a lot of people is just kind of there's that discussion you have in your head, right? And the discussion that you have in your head with yourself is a lot different than the discussion that you have vocally with somebody, or put out publicly, right? So I
Mhm.
think that the discussion that people are having in their head is, this doesn't feel right.
Mhm.
What's being promoted to us, what's being told to us, the agendas that are being pushed on us, this doesn't feel right. And I think there's a lot of confusion in people of not understanding on how to take that conversation that they're having in their minds to having with somebody else, or having in a more of a public setting, in fear that that minority is going to cause damage to them if they express how they truly feel.
Mhm. Oh yeah. Now I mean, it's taken me a long time to put myself out there with all of this stuff where it's like, I know some people are going to have their judgments and other people will be like, oh my God, this is super fascinating.